as a young man, I never got to play cricket. Why? Because I was scrawny. It just didn't, I mean, I was at Wesley Hall Primary School of all places. You hear what I say? Wesley Hall. And I am noted to have given my lunch money for them to buy a ball and fashion a bat, etc. That was my contribution to cricket. And all the years I've been in the media, I remember being in Belize doing a training program, and somebody said, "But you're from Barbados, you must be able to play cricket. And furthermore, in fact, we'd like you to do cricket commentary." And I said, "Guys, I only know where first slip is. If you ask me where second slip is, whatever the case may be, forget it." So, I'm not a Tony Cozier, I'm not a Rex Pereira, never will be. So leave me out of it. Make me drinks, man, anything. But please, don't expect that I am a cricket. Yeah, right. I'm not a cricketer. Right, okay. So, but now you see me wearing my cigar field hat. After all, I mean, I have an opportunity to be associated with the legends. If you go through the Barbados airport, when we can fly again, you go into that shop and you can get one of these as well. You can get a Hins, they're all there, all the legends of West Indies cricket. And that is what buoys us literally across this Caribbean. If there's one thing that brings us together other than Usain Bolt winning gold, it is West Indies cricket. And we go with the ups and the downs of it. And boy, we have to be the most faithful people behind anything in the world when we support and continue to support West Indies cricket. And that's why I wanted to talk to Ricky Skerritt. Now, let me tell you, Ricky Skerritt is a friend of mine. And but I have to warn Ricky, on this field of play, you're no longer my friend. So let's get that out of the way. First, I haven't paid Ricky for this interview. He hasn't paid me for the interview. That is Oprah Winfrey style, Ricky. So welcome.
Hey, thank you very much, Julian. I was hoping you'd say, like most West Indian men say, that at some point in their teenage life, they had dreamt of playing cricket for the West Indies. You're one of the few who didn't.
I couldn't dream. I couldn't have those kinds of dreams because I didn't have the skill. I didn't have the opportunity. So forget about that.
But on the cigar field Sobers hat thing, let me just say that I've known you in broadcasting for a long time, and it's all kinds of journalism, so that you're an all-rounder. So you and Sir Gary have at least one thing in common. Both of y'all have been excellent at every aspect of your career. So very appropriate cap for you to wear.
Boy, I tell you, and I didn't pay you for that, huh? So thank you. I thank you.
That is what I do. I tell the truth, Julian.
So you're expected to tell the truth? Nothing but the truth, so help you God, Ricky. And let me ask you first of all, now, when I called you about chatting with you, you said to me, why would I want to put myself in the middle of all this? But I have a better question for you. Why would you want to continue to be the president of West Indies cricket?
Well, I guess quite simply, 2 years have not been quite enough to get the momentum to be in a sustainable form. We've been fighting battles on all fronts to improve the system that produces cricket. And, we got hit by a pandemic exactly 1 year into our tenure. And although it didn't stop us, it made us pivot and really revisit how we do a lot of things and do it with a lot less. And it did slow us down quite a bit. But I would say we need another term to really get some stability with the progress we've made, and to get some progress in those areas where we haven't made enough progress as yet. So it's a matter of duty. I have no reason to continue to get targeted the way some people have been targeting me. But when you make decisions that change some comfort zones, those who are comfortable get a little bit upset. So I'm accustomed to having unpopular decisions made, but bringing good results down the road. And some people then begin to say, well, it wasn't so bad after all.
All right. So you say 2 years is not enough, and then you have the pandemic intervening, etc. The reality is, though, that you're not the first president of the West Indies cricket to get plenty of blows for the performance of the team on the field and off the field, as the case may be, in the whole management. But speaking of management, you've been a manager in St. Kitts and Nevis for many years. I know you're from DeLille, Walwyn, etc. You've managed the West Indies cricket team on the road and so on. What is different now about the role of president of West Indies cricket? Is this a full-time job? Is this occupying 24 hours a day? You're running all over the place. You're talking to people left, right, and center. Give us a feel for how you perform this job.
It's a responsibility. Its primary role is as chairmanship of a board, a board of 18 persons coming from around the region. But most importantly, you become a trustee and an overseer of strategy and policy that's designed to bring about better results on a sustainable basis on the field through updated, more modern methods for supporting those who perform on the field. And it's not a full-time job if you have an alignment with the executive management who've been employed by you and your board. Some people have tried to make it into a full-time job. I don't think it needs to be. I do it at about a half-time job in terms of actual work time at a desk. But if you love cricket the way that I and thousands of people love cricket around the region, you never stop thinking cricket, and you always, in cricket in one form or another, in terms of your memories, in terms of your thinking, and in terms of your concerns. But it really is not chairman, president, whatever you call it, of Cricket West Indies should not be a full-time job. With the right team, with the right people, with the right relationships, with the right stakeholder involvement, it is a job that takes a village, not just one superhuman president.
So you're in essence saying that the real value of this job is managing a set of people at a particular level. And there is where I think many people express concerns. They say, okay, so you have a president and he's doing his particular function, but have we got the right people at the next level, or the management level of West Indies cricket? Why we have so many white people? How come we don't believe in our black brothers and even sisters, for that matter? These are the kind of crude assessments, but hey, we are Caribbean people. We speak our mind. What do you say to that? Yeah,
Caribbean people definitely speak our mind when it comes to cricket, and I love that. But if you have to deal with the facts, Julian. It is my administration that brought in the West Indian First policy, which is in operation. We are not racist, and we don't believe that it's West Indians only. We have some excellent, what you call, white people, non-West Indian people, I prefer to call them, who are working very, very hard on behalf of West Indies cricket, who understand what our vision is and what our needs are, and are helping us get it done because of the expertise that they have. We have actually transformed the management team when it comes to especially cricket management, and we have brought in more West Indian past players and West Indian qualified coaches than ever before. The one coach who we have brought in is a highly specialized coaching education manager who we brought in out of Western Australia just over a year ago. And he is right now facilitating what I call a renaissance in coaching, in cricket coaching across the region. So he's already worth his weight in gold. And so we only bring in people who we don't have regionally. We have now a procurement and a recruitment system that is second to none in terms of finding the best and finding the best Caribbean services and human resources.
But people will still argue with you, and I want you to respond to this clearly, that we do have a lot of talent in the region that is either not used at all or underutilized. And I'm talking, and I want to zero in on the legends, since that is one particular area. People say, okay, how come Vivian Richards not working full time? How come Curtly Ambrose not working full time? And if you go through the leewards and the windwards, there are a lot of other players there, or past players, who've been at the top of the game, but not involved in nourishing and building the West Indies team for now and the future.
Well, Viv Richards is not working full time. He hasn't worked full time for a long time anywhere. But Viv Richards has worked with us in broadcast last summer before last in Florida on the Indian tour. Viv Richards worked with our broadcast team. Viv Richards is an exceptional human being, and I wish we could find a role that Viv Richards would enjoy and that we could afford. We don't have the resources right now to engage some of these legends and pay them what they're worth. These guys are just exactly that, legends. But we have engaged several. In the 2019 ODI World Cup, the ICC World Cup, we engaged 5 legends, and they went to England and spent the World Cup working on behalf of Cricket West Indies in a public relations kind of way on behalf of Cricket West Indies and our sponsors. We've hired Courtney Walsh as our Director of Women's Cricket. You mentioned Curtly Ambrose. So Curtly has worked for us many, many times since I have been president. He's working for us right now in broadcast, and he's working for us in mentor with under 19 cricketers. We have Phil Simmons is back as our head coach. Floyd Reefer, the former West Indies captain, is in charge of our under 19 program now. We have only past West Indian players now filling most of our top cricket positions. Roger Harper has just come back as our lead selector. Anne Brown John, a legend in women's cricket, has come back as the head, as the lead selector for our women's team, and so on and so on. I mean, I can go on. We would like to do more, but that will take a little more time.
Is it time or is it money? In other words,
well, it's time. It's time to get the resources.
Yeah, you've listed a lot of the top people, and I deliberately focus on the legends, but of course there's another layer of people, or another 2 layers or 3 layers of people who are available to help build West Indies cricket. What is standing in the way of getting those people involved? Is it money?
Well, no, you'll have to tell me what you mean. I don't think there's anything standing in the way of anybody to get involved in cricket locally. Remember, West Indies cricket is not an entity that exists somewhere up in space. West Indies cricket is really a mix of local and regional cricket and international cricket. But we don't control what happens locally. There's absolutely nothing stopping the Barbados Cricket Association for engaging one of the top legends, and I know they have done it from time to time. There's nothing stopping Trinidad and Tobago Cricket Board from engaging one of their legends. The legends are West Indian legends, but they're also national legends. And as far as they can get involved, they should be encouraged to get involved. So even without Cricket West Indies hiring one of these outstanding, long-standing players, one of the things is what is the best role for them and for individuals. One of the roles that we are beginning to use more is mentoring younger people, but not everybody likes that or wants to do that. Just because you played cricket 30 or 40 years ago doesn't necessarily automatically turn you into a coach. So it's about finding the right roles for the right past players at the right time, in the right place, with the right cricketers. And that is something we are committed to continue doing.
But You talk about the role of the local board, so to speak, in fostering and using the talent that's available to them. But in your strategic development of West Indies cricket, is it that the Cricket West Indies has a responsibility to include the local boards in a framework of development that is consistent so that the growth of West Indies cricket is coming from, yes, the lower levels, the schoolboy cricket and the under 19s and the 23s, as the case may be, and work its way up? Or are you just depending on local boards to do their own thing and then hope that, some stars come up for you to handle?
Cricket West Indies is a support mechanism for the local boards, and the local boards is a supply mechanism, a supply source for cricketers to Cricket West Indies. So it is a mutually valuable relationship. Cricket West Indies providing what financial and technical resources that we can to help local and regional cricket grow in standards on a consistent basis. But that relationship must also involve, for it to be successful, it must also involve all stakeholders, especially governments. And as you know, up until recently, the Cricket West Indies system, including many local boards, were not quite in harmony with governments and the public sector. The big challenge that I have and still have, and have made some progress in some countries, but hope to make more progress in more countries, is building bridges between the public sector, the private sector, and the cricket fraternity, so that we can truly work together at the local level right through the system to produce the very best support and the very best quality cricketers for performance on the field. So it's work that's ongoing, and that's one of the jobs that we still have to get better at.
Let's deal with the territorial boards then. And you've been in the job there for 2 years now, but of course a longer association. Are we likely to see the kind of transformation that's been pointed at in a number of instances, where people suggest that Cricket West Indies is a corporate entity, a business, etc., and it is no longer an organization that is relying on people who are working at the territorial level, where it's a gentleman's or, well, until recently, club. In other words, the professionalism that we expect at the local level to feed into the regional level is not there for one reason or another, because these are casual amalgams, so to speak.
Well, I think all of the local boards understand that it can't be business as usual, and it hasn't been business as usual, especially since Cricket West Indies introduced a professional league. But what we have to do is to teach the various people who are employed and who are volunteering that cricket is needs full-time attention, even if it doesn't have full-time employees, because the cricketers need to have ongoing skill development and mental toughness training and so on from a very young age. And that we shouldn't have programs just because Cricket West Indies sends money to pay a coach here and there to conduct a program. One of the things we have been doing much better, and I think you're beginning to see the results, is that we've developed a network of coaches across the region, some of whom are employed by the local boards, some of whom are employed by governments. But we are standardizing A, their skill development, and B, their focus on helping local cricketers when they're not playing in tournaments or on tour. So that players now, when they go back to their native island or native country, are more likely to continue their cricket development than any time before. And those who haven't been out, for instance, we have about 45 under 19 players right now who have not traveled regionally because of COVID and so on, but who are broke across the region, maybe across 11 or 12 countries. And in every country, we have a particular coach who is part of a network now headed by Floyd Reefer to keep those young kids getting prepared for the World Cup, which we are hosting in January 2022. And that is unique. We've never had that before. Because of the virtual platforms that now exist, we are running webinars with these coaches. We are standardizing approaches in certain areas, like certain skills that we haven't paid attention to much in the past, like fielding and so on. And we are actually employing coaches who will work specifically with these young players, even though we don't have an under-19 tournament happening anytime soon. We hope to have that in the summer, hopefully. But we may do a camp. So we're taking all kinds of different approaches to get the cricketers, no matter where they are. They could be in a little village in Nevis, or they could be in a big city in Kingston, Jamaica. We have to find them and help them prepare themselves to be better, more competitive cricketers.
While you talk about being better and more competitive, let me remind everybody that this is a special edition of Caribbean Bridges, and I'm in Kingston, Jamaica, sporting my Gary Subbers hat, if you please. And Ricky Skerritt, of course, is the current president of Cricket West Indies. He wants to keep that job for another 2 years, he and his partners. One of the discussions I had overnight as I talked to one of my cricket fans and aficionados is the fact that West Indies cricket, if it expects to resume its ascendancy, needs to create an environment similar to that really led to the growth of our players. And we're talking specifically about the experiences of English county cricket. And this guy said to me, you know what happened? Those guys went to England, they played cricket 6 days a week, they were disciplined, it was a job, and they had to earn respect of the people who hired them, and everything blossomed from there. As soon as the English decided, hey, these guys are too good, we need to beat them, they're beating us too often, they shut down the county program. And this guy said to me, what we need in the Caribbean is our own county program. Is that something under consideration even before COVID?
The basis of our own county program began 6 years ago under the leadership of my predecessor. The problem is that what we call the professional franchise system, the time has come for it to be refreshed, upgraded, lift standards, improve the quality of the people leading in the franchise systems. And so we have recently gotten the board to agree that we will do a major review of the regional professional franchise system. That is in our 10-point plan going forward. It is one of the key ones, because we have to raise standards not only in fitness, which we have done very successfully so far, by the way. That has been a key success in our franchise program, where we have not only implemented the fitness policy, but we have clarified it, we've strengthened it, and we have enforced it. If you've been following, you'll see that it's caused some controversy in some sources, because unfortunately, insularity still is a big issue in the Caribbean, where if your player is somehow found to be not meeting the minimum standards, you fight his case. But if somebody from somewhere else happens, then you don't really care. I mean, that is not appropriate. We have to get the fittest and the most capable players on the field. But one of the things the county system did, Julian, was that it got young players sitting in the same dressing room with senior players. And the exchanges that took place out on the field and in the back rooms made a big difference week after week. It was like a constant university. If you think back of Sir Viv Richards going to England as a young 21-year-old or what thereabouts, compared to what it did for him over the next 10, 15 years, as he grew and as he became, a teacher of others. That cycle has to happen in the Caribbean. And unfortunately, when you get angry with old players, or should I say senior players, who who you don't have a relationship with because they're doing things that you're not happy with, and then you end up, the way you handle them is that you get rid of them. What you're doing is you're getting rid of the opportunity for mentorship with younger players. We just saw the Trinidad team win handsomely the Super 50 tournament because they brought back so many of their senior players and married them with their young players. That's a policy we have taken when we reviewed our selection system. We said we are no longer going to stop certain players from being available, whether they want to be or not. We now allow any player of any age, as long as that player is suitably prepared, qualified, and meets the selection criteria. The selectors can bring that player in. We just had a situation where Chris Gayle at age 41 played for our victorious T20 team. Now, Chris Gayle is a legend, but he must be an inspiration to the younger players in that team, whether you like Chris Gayle or not. And you see, too many administrators across the Caribbean judge players, in some cases, who they have never even spoken to. So we have to make sure that we get the best of West Indian cricket, past and present, helping to interact with the best young cricketers, present and future. And in fact, all stakeholders. And that's that I would say to you, that is one of the main differences between our tenure and what we have faced in the recent past and possibly can face in the near future if we're not careful. People who do not understand that West Indies cricket is bigger than any one individual or any one island or any one territory.
I want to delve in a little bit more into the very foundations of the growth of West Indies cricket. You've had Scotiabank, for instance, sponsoring kiddie cricket and what else. You've also had the University of the West Indies, a high performance center, and so on. How do you see all these elements really nurturing and helping to restore and build West Indies cricket? Or is there a requirement for much more than that?
We need that, but we need that operating more effectively. We need the partnerships. I'll take the partnerships. Scotiabank was a very crucial partnership for West Indies cricket. It wound down in a way that was very sad, and we lost that sponsorship as Scotiabank itself went through its own corporate changes. But we had no plan for replacing kiddies cricket. When I became president 2 years ago, there was absolutely no plan for what do you do as kiddies cricket ends, which was virtually ended. We were literally begging Scotiabank to give us a few dollars for just one more year. That was my interaction in the first few weeks of being president. Have we found a replacement sponsor? Not really. Are we going to ever find one sponsor at the level that Scotiabank did for us in kiddies cricket? Probably not. And so we have to do it in fractions, in pieces, and help to put it together. And that is why I have this plan where partnering with the local government and taking a situation where you encourage the local government through different incentives cricket-wise to pay more focus on schools cricket and take the local Ministry of Education and the local Ministry of Sport, in some cases one and the same minister, and getting them to partner with the local cricket board and Cricket West Indies to focus more on what happens in their own schools that the ministry is responsible for and where the local boards live, so that we can have a more vibrant and focused program, which we don't have to call the kiddies program because that's the Scotiabank name, but we give it another name as seen fit. It doesn't matter what the name is what is done. And that is the essence of our grassroots program going forward. It's about schools cricket. If you can get kids, boys and girls, playing cricket at age 7, 8 years old in school, right up to high school level. And it happens in several countries already. We just need to make sure that it's happening with more vibrancy and with more sustainability.
You talk about women just now in your response. It brings me to the question of the future of women's cricket. We really did well at a particular point, and now we seem to be thereabouts. If I'm not to be unfair to the people involved in that side of the game, what about the drive to really sustain and build or rebuild West Indies women's cricket?
Women's cricket is a very important part of West Indies cricket. Unfortunately, partly because of lack of resources, but also because of a mindset, I think, in some of the leadership and the past leadership of West Indies cricket. Women's cricket were kind of, and also ran. One of the things I discovered when I became president was that we were paying coaches in the women's team almost half what we were paying coaches in the men's team. Obviously, if you had a choice to work in either team, I mean, remuneration matters. So we have tried to bridge that gap as much as we can, and we have made the women's program a priority. When we hired Courtney Walsh to head it in October last year, it wasn't by accident. And Courtney just finished his first encounter with 25 of the best ladies, young and not so young, across the region. That's where we started our cricket program post-COVID in Antigua, early January, with a highly technological and scientific-based camp for the best women from across the region. And if you speak to any of the coaches, try to get Courtney Walsh on your program sometime and let him tell you what's different now and what the women are going through in that camp and will continue to go through. The problem is that there's not a lot of world cricket right now for women. We were going to be attending a qualification program in Sri Lanka that has been postponed by the ICC because the Women's World Cup has been postponed. So the women tend to play more based on what's happening in the ICC qualifications and the ICC international tournaments, and those have slowed up. We still hope to have a women's league, which we would normally have somewhere around the time of the IPL, around April time. We are going to have it, but it's going to be a little bit later in the year. But we must have an under-19 women's program because ICC is going to have the first ever ICC under-19 girls tournament sometime within the next couple of years or so. And at the moment, there's no West Indies under-19 girls program. So we don't have a choice. We have to do it, and we have to do it properly. Before
I go on to talk about a little bit more money and relations with ICC and IPL and CPL, etc., I want to zero in on the matter of the relationship with the players. Yes, you're the president of Cricket West Indies. You are seen as the personality. People don't really pay attention to anybody else. They say the president is the point man here. Last time around, before your presidency, there was a relationship between the president and the players, and particularly the key players, that was literally the pits, and that's putting it mildly. In your 2-year tenure, how would you describe your relationship with the players?
My relationship is quite simple. It's one of mutual respect and one of mutual trust. I don't demand anything from any of the players except that they be professionals. I don't try to get them to like me. I don't ask them to bow down when I pass. I don't stay in a separate hotel to where they are because I don't like some of them. That is pettiness at its highest that has prevailed in the past. I will tell you that because I spent 4 years, primarily because I spent 4 years, but not the only reason, in the trenches, I learned a lot about players and of the highest standard, legendary status. I had the privilege of working with people like Brian Lara, Sir Cutley Ambrose, Courtney Walsh, Carl Hooper, Jimmy Adams, etc. I mean, I can keep going on and on. And all of them will tell you that even when we had disagreements, it was respectfully done. And they taught me a lot, and I believe I taught them a lot. Cricketers are not mostly university graduates with PhDs in finance and so on. But the University of Cricket, especially international cricket, is quite an education. And so I respect these players. I listen to them if I have to. But the truth is that we hire the best people to look after their needs and to help them be the best that they can be. They don't interact with me very much on a one-on-one basis. They don't need to. If I have the best people employed to work with them, but they know that anything that takes place is taking place with the best of intention and with goodwill towards all concerned. I don't have to have the players as my friends. I just want the players to respect the roles they play on behalf of the people of the West Indies. And all I demand from them is their best efforts. And if their best efforts are somehow hurt by our incompetence or our inefficiencies or inadequacies, then I will try to fix it. That's really what my role is.
Then let's get on to the matter of the international tournaments that our cricketers are involved in, the IPL, for instance. Let's start there. Would you say in the last period under your tenure that you have a sense of the players' commitment to West Indies versus what people say, boy, them boys going to make plenty money, you know, man?
Look, when I got word from our selection review task force a little over a year and a half ago that they were going to recommend that there'll only be one captain for both versions of the white ball cricket, right? Remember, back then we had a different captain for T20 and a different captain for ODI. And they were going to recommend that we join the two and have one captain. And as I discussed with them who those options would be, the best option clearly was Kieron Pollard. That was back in August, September 2019, just about 6 months, five months after I had become president. Kieron Pollard at the time had been painted by my predecessors as if he was some mercenary who hated West Indies cricket. Although I thought that I knew better, I still wanted to engage him. So I engaged him. You can ask Kieron Pollard anytime. And after my first conversation with him on the telephone, I said to him, I'm coming to Trinidad in a couple of weeks. I'd like to meet you face to face. Altogether, Kieron Pollard and myself must have spent 3 to 4 hours talking about West Indies cricket. I could tell you there's no cricketer I know who loves West Indies cricket more than he does. There are a lot of them who love it a lot. And I'll tell you that there are several of them, including Dwayne Bravo, Darren Sammy, and others who are somehow chastised by my predecessors and who are seen even by the fans today as people who are not committed to West Indies cricket. They couldn't be further from the reality of the fact that these players would prefer, all of them, to be playing in the maroon outfits on a regular basis. But they have families to feed. They have job opportunities in front of them, and therefore they have to choose from time to time. And the choices are not always what all of us would want. The difference with me and the people who I work with, including my vice president, Dr. Shallow, is that we listen and we respect and we prepared to work in ways that would be win-win. You don't get a win-win unless you engage people and you plan and you think. We just did it with the T10 league in Abu Dhabi. We worked with their people worked with our people, and we came up with a system that allowed over 20 of our players to play in Abu Dhabi and still get back to Antigua in time to play in our Super 50. That is the kind of consultation that has to take place. There are going to be times when you have to force them to take certain decisions, but that will be done based on well understood rules and regulations.
So can we see Darren Sammy coming back into the fold?
Darren Sammy is transitioning into mentorship and coaching. Very excited for him. You may have seen him on the screen in the Pakistan Professional League. Darren Sammy is always going to be a force in West Indies cricket, no matter where, when, how, or why. But he will always be the type of guy, he is the type of guy who has that balance between his own leadership skills and his understanding of cricket. That must be a force in West Indies cricket going forward.
I'm talking with Ricky Skerritt, the president of Cricket West Indies. I'm Julian Rogers. I'm in Kingston, and Ricky is in Bathurst in Kitts. How come you're not in Antigua, Ricky?
It's called COVID, my friend. And it's also about, I go where I need to go. I'm not going to go to jump around and celebrate with players just for that reason. I work very close to Antigua. Our corporate offices are in Antigua, as you know, and St. Kitts is just a hop and step and a drop across. But I work very closely with the management team in Antigua, and all the folks in Antigua are working in overdrive. I have to tell you, they're doing an excellent job. They've been very, very busy, and they're operating in a biosecure bubble, which has been, knock on wood, quite effective so far. And our, difficulties have been minimal. We work very well with the government of Antigua and Barbuda as well. And let me take this opportunity to thank them, because we're having some excellent results because of that.
As you talk about bubble, you got a lot of licks for taking the West Indies team to England to break the so-called bubble. Bad decision, good decision, regrets, what? We
pioneered the biosecure bubble in the English tour. It was the first one of its kind created for cricket, designed partly by our medical people. I'm very proud of it. Our medical people now are being used as consultants globally on the biosecure bubble. And so, I got a lot of blows for sending a team that most folks thought had no chance at all to Bangladesh. We have 105 players contracted around the region. And because 10 of them are not available, you're telling me that we can't have a team? I mean, that was my attitude. I trust and respect the professional cricketers who we have. And it's up to them to go out there and give up their best and do their best. And sometimes they get much better results than some of their own coaches expect. And that's the beautiful thing about Caribbean talent. We punch above our weight. If you give Caribbean people the right environment, if you free up and empower our people collectively, we achieve great things way beyond the sum of the parts. And that's what happens with West Indies cricket. That's why we love West Indies cricket so much, because we've seen that happen over many, many years. We see it happening right now. The challenge is, what are we doing to make sure that it can happen more often and more sustainably? And that's exactly what I'm about.
That sounds like a campaign statement, so I let it fly for now.
Let me take that back then. That's what we are trying to achieve every single day, to put the right systems in place, massage them, keep them well oiled, so that they are delivering the best support to our cricketers, who can then deliver the best efforts and talents on the field of play that ultimately pleases their fans and their families. And that's what makes West Indies cricket so perfect.
So as you talk about the fans, I mean, we're the most patient people in the world, but Lord, we want to see us beating people again.
Julian, we just won a series yesterday. The third.
Beat Australia, England, New Zealand, South Africa.
We will have Australia coming here later this year. We beat Sri Lanka in 2 series back to back. Both formats of the game in which Sri Lanka was ranked ahead of us. We are ranked at the bottom of the table in each format of the game up until when we beat Sri Lanka in the T20 tournament. We have now gone from number 10 in the world in T20 to number 8. This is the first climbing of any ladder for West Indies cricket for nearly 10 years. In that same T20 format, we fell, Julian, from number 3 in 2016 to number 10 by the time I became president in 2019. We've just gone back up two spots on the ladder, two rungs on the ladder to number 8 because we beat Sri Lanka, who were ahead of us. Now that we've beaten Sri Lanka in ODI, it's the first ODI series victory we had against Sri Lanka after 10 matches. The first victory against Sri Lanka for quite a while. They're ahead of us. I don't know exactly what it's going to do to our rankings, but I think we should go up at least one ranking from 9 to 8. We'll see what happens over the next week. So the question is, how can we sustain that? Did this happen by accident? Or are we going to make sure that it continues to happen? It's not going to happen every day the way we want it. But if we keep on doing what we're doing, I'm confident that we will see more wins than losses. I've never said we would achieve it in 2 years. I always said I needed 3 to 10 years to get the sustainability. But I don't want to be here for more than 3 to 4 years. But West Indies cricket, if we keep on doing what we're doing, I'm confident that within the next 2 to 7 years, West Indies cricket will be back up at the top of the world rankings. I mean, we have the best talent. There's no question about that. We just have to have the right systems working well.
And that system to get us up in the top 3?
I think certainly in the top 5 and hopefully in the top 3 in white ball cricket. We'll get in the top 5 in test cricket. And in white ball cricket, we can get back into the top 3.
I wanted to ask you a question about the impact of CPL on West Indies cricket. It's run by somebody else. We missed the boat? Look,
something doesn't have to be run by you for you to take ownership of it. We are a very small shareholder in CPL. But CPL is our domestic T20 league, whether we like it or not. I didn't like it. I inherited it. CPL was an arrangement done at a time when the board at the time felt it was the best thing. I'm not going to knock the board for doing what it did back then. But as you do 2020 vision, you say, well, if we knew then what we know now, maybe we would have done some things different. But I wasn't there then, and I didn't. There's not much I can talk about the history. The history I can talk about is the recent history that I discovered when I became president. And that was a horrible relationship between the owners of CPL and the leadership of CWI. That was a secret then. I don't think it's a secret now. But as a result of that hostility and lack of collaboration, there were many things that we could have done together that we either didn't do or didn't do very well. Today, that has changed. Of course, all of us are facing serious financial hurdles without gate receipts, without the ability to travel around the region and have home games and so on. So CPL is a very important part of West Indies cricket. There's some who don't like to hear me say that, including my opponents, who, by the way, are hostile to CPL, even though at least one of them was in the board when the CPL deal was done. The bottom line is that in the interest of cricket, because cricket, West Indies cricket, is bigger than all of us, Julian, sometimes you have to swallow your conscience or your pride.
Right.
And minimize the testosterone around the board and say, how can we work this for the betterment of West Indies cricket? We need to be more solution oriented. That's one thing you could be confident of with Skerritt and Shallow. We are solution oriented. We're about making peace, not war.
Another campaign slogan.
Hey,
Skerritt.
can I say it a different way? I'm sorry, I could say it a different way. We are about bringing people together to build West Indies cricket. We don't want to fight the petty fights that have dominated West Indies cricket too much in the recent past and has hurt our ability to produce a productive and successful outcome.
Which brings me to a question about the ability of the board, Cricket West Indies, to intervene in disputes at the territorial level. There are some wounds, old wounds hanging around in a number of areas. I could talk about the Leewards, they've had their problems. You talk about Guyana, even Barbados, etc. What is the power of the board to help resolve the problems in those territorial boards?
There's no power. There's no defined role. That's not what the board was set up to do. However, individual initiatives can happen. People can volunteer their input. Different presidents in the past have sent people to different places to talk to people and so on. But sometimes when a situation is so horrifically entrenched in war, in politics, and in economics, Cricket West Indies is better off just standing back and allowing the local forces to handle it and only coming in on invitation. So it's about, making an assessment and deciding whether you can make a difference or not, or whether it is a priority in the long list of headaches that you already have on the table in front of you. But really, you cannot turn a blind eye. You have to, at the very least, you have to be monitoring local situations and pray and hope.
But is that enough, Ricky? It would seem that you want to stand back and hope that the issue would be.
I said there are times when one has to do that, and there are times when one can take an initiative.
But have you in your 2 years tried to resolve some of those issues?
Well, there's no board that brought any issue of a local level to my attention that I was either wasn't aware of or was somehow asked to intervene in. As a matter of fact, the Guyana situation, which I really don't even want to talk about, but I could talk about it in the sense that the Guyana situation preceded any attempt by the Guyana strongman secretary from becoming a candidate. The Guyana situation goes back about 10 or 11 years. And my visit to Guyana in May, June 2019, just 3 months after I became president, was designed to get a feel for what was the Guyana situation, because at that point I was being reached by cricket officials in Guyana, but not in our member board, GCB, asking me to come to Guyana because they felt that Cricket West Indies had been shielded from the reality of the Guyana situation. And I have to tell you, when I got there, I found out that that was the truth. That Cricket West Indies generally didn't know what was taking place in Guyana, and to a large extent still doesn't quite understand what has been taking place in Guyana. So the Guyana situation had grown into a massive situation, including many, many litigations and matters that are before the court on an ongoing basis. Is very difficult for you to get involved with unless you want to get into the court yourself. And then when it explodes into matters of national politics with top government officials involved and so on, at that point you have to be even more careful. So first of all, I get accused of being too pro-government. I was a government minister for 10 years, so I understand the value of government to cricket development in the region, and I have no apologies to make for wanting to engage with governments every year about their role and their partnership.
So you're saying, in essence, Ricky, that the Cricket West Indies does not have a so-called good office role in any of these situations?
No, Cricket West Indies does not have an Office of Foreign Affairs with trained diplomats and statesmen, and with the kind of time and resources to make such interventions a high priority. Cricket West Indies' #1 priority is putting outstanding, successful cricketers onto the cricket fields of the region and of the world. And that is our #1 priority. Anything after that, Cricket West Indies will do in a sense of what they can do at the best that we can under the circumstances. But it is not our priority to go and find solutions to local political and legal problems. What we will not do is allow masqueraders to come to Cricket West Indies as so-called representatives who do not have the legitimacy. And so at any such time as we find that there is a lack of legitimacy, then we will investigate and get into it if we have to. But quite frankly, at this point in time, that is for another day.
But I'll stay with this one more time and say to you, Cricket West Indies has had access to some very powerful and highly respected people in resolving its own issues. Bruce Golding, PJ Patterson, and to just name 2 key people here. And they've given, with their working groups, for instance, a lot of key recommendations for the governance of West Indies cricket. There's a sense across the region, hey, look, we've gotten all this talk, all this work to be done, but Cricket West Indies has not taken advantage of this council.
Well, during the 2 years that Dr. Shala and myself have been in charge, we have sought and received counsel from several West Indian luminaries, and we'll continue to do so. But you highlight the point, though. If Cricket West Indies has not been able to deal with its own governance issues, what makes you think that we could deal with the governance issues at the local level? The local level has to be dealt with, but it has to be dealt with primarily by local understanding and local input, with Cricket West Indies support, but not with Cricket West Indies leading it. It takes a village, but sometimes the leadership has to change from one villager to the next. My point is, though, that we are very serious about improving how the organization called Cricket West Indies is governed. The very first report that we commissioned, which was a business situation assessment and financial review done by PKF, that 6 months after we received it, somehow that got into the public domain, and you may recall that was a big issue sometime last year in the media and all that. But what that did was that showed us that we had a serious misalignment of our executives when it came to financial management, and that we had an endemic cash flow situation, and that we had a number of problems in the way in which we were managing our finances. And 28 recommendations later, we have been working diligently to implement those findings. So, we are much better managed today than we have been, but the board and how the board is formatted and how the board operates and some of the governance issues specific to the board, as you know, we have a report that has been submitted at our request from a former member of our board, Senator Webby out of Jamaica, and several colleagues, all of whom are highly respected professionals across the region. and you'll say it's another one of 5 reports of its kind. This one, we believe, is a lot more pragmatic. It has involved a little bit more research within the organization itself, and I think we have a better chance of moving forward on this report, although the report is already receiving some pushback from a number of sources. But because of our style, because of our commitment to bringing people together, I am confident that sometime within the next few months, you will see at least some of that Webby report being implemented.
Well, that's a good point on which to wrap it up here, Ricky. Glad for your openness and certainly to get a sense of some of the vision, some of the challenges, of course, of running West Indies cricket. Wish you the very best, and let's see if you get another 2 years from your supporters and colleagues.
Well, thank you, Julian. Let me just say that communicating with the media is a big part of our strategy, because we believe the media are the eyes and ears of the fans and of the stakeholders. And one of the big differences between us and the past is that we really genuinely encourage our people, from the cricket people, the administrative people, the board, anybody, to talk about West Indies cricket. Because the more we talk about West Indies cricket, the more likely it is that we're going to get to the point of solutions. And that's what we need. Thank you, Julian.
Thank you again. Ricky Skerritt joining us here on Caribbean Bridges. Spread the word and share this with your friends. Thanks, everybody. Have a great time.